I will continue with what I had started yesterday, saying the importance of making a solid model, and unlike the mechanical or from the drafting angle, which have become historically associated with manufacturing and not as much for laying out and making design. The advantage of laying out and making design is you have full control about it. Those things were earlier done by using a graph sheet and making models, and people trying to get back to the so called drawing board. Now, drawing board itself has become a you have a touch screen, and each component also you get the 3D devices which are available, but because of the historical reasons we still continue to have two distinct ways of making things. One is what the electronic design automation people do. They do have the printed circuit boards, they do have everything. I will just take you here and see, and this is where I wanted to make I keep repeating and trying to make an impact. You see here we have a very large number of these so called subsystems. The idea being a picture is available, and if you ask for the 3D solid model, they will give you something which is little more mechanical oriented. When I mean mechanical oriented, it is meant for the fabrication and machine shop, not so much as for our purpose. And if you are talking about electronics, invariably it will talk about design automation, by which circuitry and parasitics and all are involved. Now, for several of these things we even have these various types of enclosures, everything ready. You have seen this, large number of these things are available there. We have enclosures, we have you name it, we have it. But when you want to make a product like this, what you are looking for is a interaction between the mechanical fabrication items and also the electronic automation. This is just a child's this thing, and then you notice it is not a QWERTY keyboard, and it is not made in the way conventional way in which the things are laid out and all that. In fact, it is made like a honeycomb, and they have put everything neatly A to Z, and you have all these various things. But when you open it and see underneath, you have the same thing which you saw in the remote control. Now, this is where I thought I will make a contribution, saying when you make your models, you need to make them such that each of these you include the mechanical part so that you can fabricate items, you include the electrical footprint and the pads where the connections can be taken. And this is where I also wanted to stress, saying we have the nice way of exchanging information. So, we have the drawing interchange format, or even higher level you have the IGS format. So, you can save these various details and then import them directly to a PCB. It is much better than trying to play around with making it 2 or 3 times, and in the end you will notice that the front panel, which is made in millimeters or inches, does not go with the other item, saying there is still a problem with it. So, we have a large number of these inconsistencies. Now, let me get back to the drawing which I had started. In this case, if you remember, I started here, do you remember? Oh, something has crashed, do not worry about it. It will come up. There was a problem in accessing the pen drive. I had started it here saying I need to make these items, and further I had taken it to the next level, saying you try to include the other elements and then you make these layers in this. So, by this I need to just copy these things at various instances, and in the end it works very, very well. Now, I will see if I can open, we will edit it out. See, at this place what I had finally come out is saying I have finally made a switch, which I will try to show you at a slightly perspective point. You see here I have this switch. So, if I give this rendered image, I have the toggle switch, and by the shape of it you understand where it is flat, it probably goes up and down and like 2 positions, and corresponding to this on the other side we have the small LED with its bezel. This is just a crude representation saying how it helps, and now when I attempt to render it, you see here I have a nice way of showing this. Intentionally this particular thing is only about the how to organize these things on the front panel, how to move them around, and how to make a very simple interesting thing, by which it shows, if you remember the what I showed you last time, it shows us the how to make a simple device which has 8 switches, and if you operate these switches some LEDs will glow, and eventually on a display you have something. This is not a real equipment, because this topic is not about how to get the functionality out of it. The topic is how to use available very simple design tools with us, and you can now, without having to go back to various other places or go around search in the marketplace, once you make these things, if you make a picture of this thing, you can organize this. Now, let me go out here. See, I have a beautiful equipment already. You have seen this? What started not so, what you call, interesting, suddenly I have this nice beautiful device here. You have seen this? In this, if you see, in reality everything is just what you call, I won't say lifted off the internet, everything is taken from the internet, by which I am able to make things and make a reasonable presentation which is quite useful. Looks very authentic and real, is it not? I have a display there, I have these keys here. In this case, because the printed circuit board is probably directly behind the front panel, this is all the equipment. It is just a sort of a simple flat box. To make this thing a little more interesting, I have given a beveled edge, and important things like the circuits and all are hidden here, but however there is a provision. If I now, right now I have not actually populated it, it is very much possible for me to have these things directly populated here. See here, this is the thing behind. At this point I have only left the basic mounting hole and a small grommet which will allow it to sit inside. I have not added the terminations, I have not added, rather enabled all those things. When you enable all those things, we will have neatly all these things from behind the panel, and you can have the drilling detail taken from here by selectively switching on the various items, and without having to Actually, go to the first level of the what do you call prototyping. You have an equipment which is ready. You understand, it may or may not be functional, but the prototype is sufficient for us to convince our other roommate, teammates saying this is what I am thinking about. So, if you see very small items which look insignificant, like I have this for honestly I do not know what it is just a pointer we use on this. I am sure it has gone through several stages or several rounds of redesign and optimization. So, if you go to the very old design books, several of them are again related to mechanical engineering, where at the highest level you have a need analysis and so on, it comes down to embodiment design. In embodiment design you have this sometimes the solid modeling, and something related to this is the analytics including related to stress. Same way when you have the electronics, you once again as part of the detailed design or embodiment design, you have the other design, the electronics design, and in electronics design what you call mixed mode simulation is real. Without that, a small thing like my mobile, it is surprising that this mobile has 4 to 5 radios built into that. In this case, radio means wireless things. All of us are familiar with the basic GPRS system. We are also familiar a little with the Bluetooth and then several other wireless. But now these days, so many of those things have been added, I still do not know. We have the Chromecast device, and then we have, I just do not know what all is there. If you open one of those things, this many items are sitting inside. This is where I would like to stress saying each of these items probably there is a mechanical component in it and then equivalent electronic component. And in the case of a device like this, it is very critical that everything is packaged extremely well. Added to that, we also have a battery, it is waiting to explode. Not all batteries explode, it is just probably a thing. Now, if you look at my this rendering here, I have tried to add an element of, I do not know, interest or whatever you can call it. The element of interest here is, generally I do not know whether I have mentioned to you about the concept of most significant bit and least significant bit and all that. When you have this 8 bit word or anything, extreme left conventionally we have got used to it. If you have a large number, something which shows tens of thousands, extreme left shows the most significant thing. So, the error should be minimum in this case. So, it is just a gag, I do not think there is any reality about it. I have made a red color to it, least significant I have given it a blue color. But then as I said, I keep repeating, this is not about the coloring or anything. The fact is that when we make the first solid model, we need to include all these things inside. After you finish it, it is very easy for us to make things, while at one level it is probably very much correct. This is not how in reality this thing are never made like this. In fact, if you see the, I will just search for a 16 key hex keyboard. So, if you can look at my monitor, the other monitor here, just like that in front of you, I thought I wanted to give you a sneak preview about it. This is what you are likely to find on your most of the kits. You have noticed here there are 16 keys and all of them are made in a simple matrix, because from a learning point of view it is very convenient for us that we need to learn these things, and sometimes the designations are given here starting from S1 to S16. So, in this case randomly they have given here, this just as in this being a raw keyboard, there no other things are attached to this except the numbers. Now, when I go back, if I see the keyboard layout, you see this beautiful keypad. You have noticed that this is what you are likely to find in any other place, but here there is a small, I will not call it a gimmick or anything, I mean sorry, it is called gimmick or jimming, but what I would like to point out is this is not much to do with the layout, except that I would like to say, you see the way they have been organized here. In fact, this left portion of it has been made to look like a part of a old DTMF keyboard, and then you have these ABCDs. It is a very unusual combination, very rarely we have such combinations, but if you go out you get large number of these things, where you have seen this, something like this is there, and all we need is probably a drawing to take care of all these things, and then this is traditionally what you would have found in a kit, the old 8050 or 80 even older board. You see here slightly what has been done here is neatly everything has been made here. Sometimes the 0 instead of being here it will be here, and A, B, C, D, E, F are here. Now, why I wanted to present you this is saying these, coming back to my see here, so many other options have been added. They have been added a small other than this 0 to 9, slightly different operations have been given. Why I can't say why these things are important, but they are important there and slightly different from the conventional QWERTY keyboards we are all used to. This seems to be very, very normal. Adaptive touch, I will leave it here. Now, kindly get back to my other what do you call this design keyboard. Sir, can you please show the other one? In this case, while at one level it does look okay, it is not really that okay as we would want it. So, I will probably now see whether I can, the same elements I can rearrange them to make it slightly different. In this case, all these keys, I will make these keys in 2 rows. Looks different, and already I have another variant of it. Looks okay, is it not? But it is really not that okay as we would like to think, because there is no 1:1 correspondence between the switches and the corresponding display there, the LED. So, obviously it is not a, I mean it is one of the solutions, but it still continues to be a freak solution. Maybe it would have been better instead I move all these things and make it, instead I rotate it about this. I do the same thing for this here. Yes, I agree, it is not the best, but still at least to me it looks slightly better. By just rearranging these things, I have made something which has got a slightly different type of aspect ratio. You have seen this? Again, the focus in this is nothing to do with the what do you call other thing. In this case, I am trying to just show you that once if I make one of these small components, the necessary drawing with it, I can carry around everything with it, and selectively if I what do you call enable or disable the connected layers at the back, I can get a beautiful drilling drawing which can be fabricated. And if I take a printout of whatever is there, I can probably make a small unit and show it to handy unit, especially physical dimensions and so on, and show it to my other team members, which I feel is a reasonably useful and good item. Now, we come to the other aspect of it, saying if you go to the internet, we have a very large number of textures. I will just go back to this. You see this here, I have this large number of textures which are available here. Can you see here? So, rough and bumpy plastic, it says. These textures can directly be applied to that background which has been shown there. Hence, you can even print this onto those things. I hope you are with me. You can print this texture along with the other front panel and the items which I have shown there, make a very simple cardboard this thing, all with the local resources available with you. You need not physically try to make it, and with the same thing just in front of you, I showed you how I could play with the small what do you call elements around. I can keep coming out with alternatives and remove certain things which are obviously not that what do you call very presentable or nice, and I can even have what is looking like a implementable thing. And the second point of it is, in a very qualitative way, I can remove certain what do you call what look like freak solutions. You understand, there I try to put all the those devices in a row and then put the switches. Now we see the correspondence is lost. Instead, if I rotate it, the correspondence is still maintained, but still there are certain things to be worked about. But only thing you notice is it looks a little like what we can do. You see here, this looks very much like a small unit which can easily be produced as we like. And if you apply a texture to the back device at the back, we also have a beautiful working model, not physically working, at least something which is a touch and feel model, and all it needs is a very simple low cost printer, and every item which you have made here, only one instance needs to be made. For example, my display, that display 3 characters have been just brought from there from the internet. Somewhere I have taken it from one of the suppliers, and here yesterday, if you remember, I was talking to you about this justifying or making these things interesting. So, if I have to make, I will just see if I will be able to, it looks approximately like the type of box you can think about. It is almost ready. So, you can have it directly on the screen, and you will notice that these various things here are looking too sharp. Would it make sense instead if I try to fillet these edges? Slightly more presentable unit. Right in front, I mean, this is no magic or anything, I am sure all of you would like it. In this case, I happen to have used a program which for which as a teacher I have had a access, otherwise you can freely download it. The only thing which I would like to one more time repeat about it is saying we have all the various small elements which you frequently use. While these are all front panel elements, when they are front panel elements, they have something to do with your interaction and organization of the control panel. And this is how life started 30 or 40 years back, before this full fledged apps and this sort of things did not come about. Now some of those things are also available, but you will notice that if you want to make the child's this thing, I mean it's some small learning toy, if you wanted to make, still it is too expensive to go and get them addicted to a a dumb smartphone. It is much better that children are allowed to play with the other devices, and first of all nothing, they are very inexpensive and you won't mind handing it over to a child to play with it. So several of these non expensive and something which goes through the roof are all can easily be made. So if you now go back to this here, you see that is one of the things. Now imagine I would like to now I will undo this, okay, and then I go to the other thing saying probably if I put the chamfer edge, see slightly different look has happened already. Now temporarily I will hide these various details which are here and try to give a soft to the whole equipment. There may be a small errors, kindly, because sometimes it is not able to build those things. You see here now slightly all the corners are a little rounded, front and the back has been chamfered like this. This part of it is a little to do with aesthetics design, a little to do with how we actually handle these objects and so on. So in the end, without too much effort, you have all these things ready with you. The starting point of course is that you should appreciate that you as the designer should be on top. The designer should be able to bring things down, and this is genuinely the top down design approach we are talking about. And as one of the designers, remember that you are in a team, you should be sensitized to how the other people will work with it, saying now if you give any of these things and in fact all those solid models and all to the people downstream, they can very easily get on with manufacturing the thing, and there will be very negligible, very small amount of surprises. In spite of it, if some products fail, it is not the design area that failure has happened. The failure has happened in the market or sales area, because we could not foresee what it is. In spite of all the hype around successful products, a lot of unsuccessful products also have been there from anything. Best known is probably automobiles, then you also know the various types of cell phones, and finally it is a wonder that a simple flat brick like thing is the current cell phone, and suddenly the functionality has become improved, and now people talk about all that flexible and all are not really a point. So I will stop here, thank you. I will get along well. What I have covered here in this is saying how to make the simple solid models, how you can give slight different things saying color, and then how you can add texture to it, how you can make a something which is directly on the screen, how you can interact with your teammates, and it is all very low resource consuming, except your time, nothing else is required, and somebody can make all those items and keep it to you. And the same files you can extract the electrical layout, like I showed you all those what do you call Arduino items and all that. You can extract all this information and happily you will be able to maintain these things for a long time. So, thank you, we will meet again.